Those hinges, they sound pretty nasty. Hey guys, welcome back to the 74 Charger G35, Infinity G35, all-wheel drive, mashup build. Now, I realize it's been a little while since we've worked on this. We joined the main shell up to the chassis of the Infinity, built the rockers, got everything set up in terms of gaps for the most part, and then, well, we just stopped. Now, I do have to apologize for the lack of progress on this particular project. Now, I realize a lot of you guys have been waiting really patiently to see what we're going to do with this. Some people have actually left the channel, unsubscribed, took off. You probably thought I wasn't interested in finishing this. Well, I am very committed to this project. We're going to get this thing done, as we do with all of our builds. So if you're tuning back in, please hit that subscribe button, join us again, and you'll see a lot more stuff in the coming months on this build. Now, getting onto these quarter panels, we cut this in such a way that when we took this car, mounted it on the rotisserie trailer, hauled it down to the blaster, when it was bouncing down the road, I didn't want this car collapsing in on itself. So I left enough material just below the feature line through here that it wouldn't flex too much. Today, we're gonna be cutting just below this feature line, and I'm not sure if we're going to remove the hem or just leave it for now and just cut up through here. When we make the panel, the final panel, we're gonna wrap it right around and into the jamb. We're not gonna try welding it here. They have an additional web just in here. The jamb rolls around and comes out, and we won't be able to finish this if we create the joint here very well. If we overlap the joint, which we never do, you might be able to do something there and just bondo it up. But what I want to do is take this sheet all the way through there and roll it inside. Just like the factory did. See that? Right there. So we'll separate that later on, pull it out. I don't want to lose the curvature at the moment until we get most of this panel shaped up. There's going to be a lot of shaping involved. And the reason we're going to be removing it up to there is it's a real devil, real challenge to finish a joint in a large surface area. If you make your joint next to a feature, it's a lot easier. Now, some guys will just take and overlap it or underlap it and double it up, weld it, and just cover it up, seal it up with some Bondo. But after some time, you are going to see that joint. It's going to show through your filler, and it might potentially crack too. You've got two layers, you have moisture that will get in between the two, and it's going to mess you up. What we do is we create a butt joint, no overlapping of material, and with a butt joint, you can actually work the sheet metal. You don't have the double thickness, which is impossible to work. So when we're done and this joint is finished, there might be a telltale sign of the joint, but for the most part, if you look down the side of the car, after it's welded and metal finished, you shouldn't be able to tell that anything's been done. This will all be bare metal, so it'll look pretty sweet. So that's one of the reasons we never overlap. Unless it's a structural thing like down in here, yeah, you want the extra overlap, plug welded, for extra strength. But on a body panel, if you end up getting some weird curve going on, you can't really make a correction with that except with fillers. We got layers of filler that has come apart, and look, somebody's done a repair on it, and you know, it's a modest repair. They worked with what they had, and they formed up a piece of angle, and because they didn't have a shrink or stretcher, they just put some cuts into it and welded it onto the quarter panel and, you know, covered it up. And for the most part, it lasted quite a while, I guess. It was after we started cutting and pulling these panels off that they started breaking up. Somebody was probably doing some investigative work to see if there was any filler in that area, but most of the stuff was in here. The bulging, see, that's breaking up. So looking at this quarter panel, I'm looking at the side of the car, we've shortened this car. That panel at the back actually extends into the wall about 2 inches. So we've pulled it back about 9 inches. Just the overall proportions of the car are changing. The front hood is set up on top just temporarily. I'm not sure if you caught that earlier, but you can see how far back it extends into the cab, into the windshield. Obviously, that won't be left like that. You have to shorten things up in such a way that the front's going to look good. And what I have here is, I don't normally do this, but for you guys, I just try to illustrate it in such a way that you guys can see what's happening. So we have the original Charger, we've got the new one that we're building, and we have the platform that we're working with. And everything is based off the wheelbase off the new platform. So it's 112 inches, the wheelbase on the Infinity. And I measured this out with that ruler there. Where'd it go? Right over there. And I got 5 and was at 9/16. So this side of the ratio is the actual dimension, and this is what's on the paper. So 112 inches corresponds to 5 and 9/16 in terms of length. Then I'll pull a dimension, say off the back here, between say the axle and the rear bumper. And that might be inch and 7/16. I think it's inch and something else, but anyway, to illustrate this point, I measure that distance, it's inch and 7/16. I do a crisscross, so inch and 7/16 times 112 divided by 5 and 9/16, and that will give me a number up here above 112. That number, say 36 inches, I don't know what it is, I'll measure it out on here between the axle and the back of the car, 36 inches, and that will give me the length that corresponds to what's on the paper. Now, to measure from the center of the wheel back, it's kind of hard with a tape measure, you can't really get a good dimension. So you can use a string, plumb bob, or one of these laser levels. You used to have a lens there, but it fell and broke. You can pick them up off the Jungle website for a decent price. And you can extrapolate that line from the center of the axle up onto the body, up here, Nick, right there. So I think the green line was a string, and that that line, about a 1/4 inch away, the blue line, that was using the laser level. And I want to illustrate a point with that 1/4 inch. You might not think it's significant, but in the end, when you're trying to finish everything with proper gaps between the bumper and the body and everything else, and if you're off by a 1/4 inch, it's going to mean a lot. So it's always important to get as accurate as you can, or as accurate as you care. Some guys don't, and that their plan for the final car is different than what we have in terms of what we want to see. So personally, I like to keep things as accurate as possible. And we'll flip this thing on right there. Just set it up on the car, if you guys can see that. So that's roughly the center right there, if you one-handed. And that corresponds to that blue line right there. And that's the 36 inches that I got off the drawing. I don't know if it's 36 or not, but I'm using 36 back, setting the bumper feature, this little thing right here, at 36. This was a lot longer. I think there was a 4-inch piece we pulled out. Yes, right here. So a 3-inch piece came out because we have those channels to blend in. Right now it's just stuck on top. I wanted to get a look at it, see what looked the best too. It's one thing to draw something up. It looks good in the drawing. But when you look at it on the car, and you step back, let's get back as far as we can here. If we have it too short, it might not work with what the car has, unless we start changing more of the structure of the car. Like we've got the bumper on the car, you know, that can be worked with, but the floor pan, the rear pan of the car, I really didn't want to start messing with that because the scope of work just accelerates very quickly. So getting back to this quarter panel section, I need to add to the top of this another, say, 3 inches for the template. We're going to be creating a template. I need to add a section through here to basically represent that material there. And since we cut it back an inch from the jamb, I'm going to add 1.5 inches to the front of that, maybe 1.75 inches, say 2 inches, just for fun. We can always trim material away. It's no fun adding material, especially if it's a 1/4 inch. Rocker panel, that corresponds to what we have here because that was cut along the rocker panel. However, at the back, we are very, very short. The bottom of the car is down here, and this thing is way up here, as you can see from the feature on here. Now, I might be talking a lot, or people have told me that I talk too much, but I feel that if I don't explain what's happening right now, you guys are just going to see some guy wheeling up a panel, trying it 15, 16, 25 times, and finally getting it there and making it, you know, making it look easy. It's not easy. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in terms of making a panel for a car that you're blending with another car. If we were doing a replacement panel, different story. This section back here, if we pull this back and into the wall, the 2 inches I was talking about earlier, this level was down here, which helped us with this level, made it down here, you know, because the back of the car was much lower. But by pulling it up, see, we're ramping up, 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 up. By pulling it ahead, we've gone up. This will align. I'm not worried about that right now, and you shouldn't be worried about that either. What I'm concerned with is making sure that we have enough material added to that section. Let me turn this off before it blinds me. There we go. Turn that off. Make sure that we have enough material added to the bottom of this new quarter panel that when we roll it up and underneath and join up with this flange right there, this has to be fixed. We join up with that we have enough material to engage with. Last thing you want is to do all that work, shape up a panel, and have the bottom here. Then what do? Make another panel or shorten this? You get up too high, you expose your mufflers too much, you know. It all has to work together. So I'm going to measure this up from the feature line down to the bottom. Well, we have to add from the bottom up to the feature line. I think it's about 3 inches. We'll add that, maybe 1 inch more. We can always cut it away. Add to the bottom. Lengthwise, I think we're way too long, so we can kind of shorten up on that. Make a template out of cardboard. Get it up on the side of the car and see how it looks. If everything lines up there, then we can take and transport that template onto some sheet metal, cut it out, and start working it. Width-wise for the wheels, we're not running with these wheels. These are gone. I've got a new set of wheels. They came in. That's another reason why I was waiting for things so long. I don't know why it takes rims so long to get in these days. It was on back order for the longest time. But anyway, they're in. So not sure if we can get them on the car or not. I know how wide the back space is and where they'll put the wheel, or where the wheel will sit in the end. So I don't want to damage them. So what we're going to do is we'll just estimate an area where we think it's going to be, which is about here. Okay. How much wider? Because this Charger is wider than the Infinity, so we have to come out. And when we cut this wheel arch out, we're going to do so in such a way that I'm cutting it, say, in here. Not that way, but just around, giving us enough material around this perimeter that we can roll it over to whatever wheel arch we feel is going to look good up there. The Infinity one, the arc, would look really wrong on a Charger. I want to maintain the Charger's arc, but I think from the drawings, that it was a little bit big. You know, these are smaller wheels anyway, but I think we can shorten up the wheel arches a little bit, front and rear. I think I did that on this drawing here. I took about 1 inch out of that center area. Just pulled the front in, and I've added a little bit to this bottom arch, or moved it ahead. So we'll have to do that. But yeah, you can see this one's a little bit tighter than the one up above. It looks more stocky, if you will. This one looks stretched out, like it melted, or you had a piece of toffee and you kind of just pulled it out. Don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down the Charger. The car looked great, but we're not saving a Charger. We're kind of taking the lines, the best parts of the Charger, and tweaking them a little bit. And then we'll eventually ignore this thing down here. I'm gonna get to work and start laying things out. And then we'll take this cardboard, get it up on the side of the car. It'll become a template at that point. See how it looks, transpose some sheet metal, and begin the process of wheeling it up. It's gonna take a little bit of wheeling to get things to look the way we want them to look. And you know, I'll throw that panel up there. After we cut it out, I kind of give it some curve. Maybe not, you know what, I'll just put it up there to show you why you can't stick a flat piece of sheet metal to the side of a car. Yeah, let's do that. So from where we cut it, if I add 3 inches, it'll be more than enough than what we need. So 3, this here, we'll add 2 inches to the front, and we'll make a kind of a right angle there. We can trim it off to what's here later on. Back here, this is the tricky part, because center of the wheel, say we come back 24 inches, at 24 inches, let's go this way, 32 inches from the top of the feature. Making a replacement panel for a car restoration is one thing. When you're altering things, it gets a little bit tricky sometimes. Okay, just using the micrometers because people have more than one. I've added about 2 inches to the front there. Straighten that out a little bit. There. Now this is a bit raggedy down here. We'll do something like this. You always trim away. And let's draw an arc. Like that. Like that. Now you see how this panel is picked up here? I push it down. It's going to change where we create that feature if I was to try and do this right now. That's why I'm not even worried about that. I'm going to add 3 inches, 3, 3, and 3. Because of the distance, the perspective, my micrometers kind of don't work too well. And we're going to join that up with a happy little line. Here, kind of like that. We'll make adjustments. Down here, see, I got a 32 here because did a little bit of planning earlier, way back, but I want to ooh boy, that's close. I want to refamiliarize myself with what I was thinking a while ago. You know what? Let's come down. The filler is just falling off of this. And I think I cut off 3 inches, so that's about there. You know what? For the fun of it, let's just, right there. Good. That's a big panel. That's a very big panel. I'm just looking at this. You know what? Let's do something with this. Maybe I gave it too much material. You know what? I'm gonna go with my instinct. I drew it out there, let's do that. Instinct comes from experience. The more you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get. I'm looking at the size of the panel, getting a little bit nervous in terms of wheeling it, but you know what? I was talking about closing up the wheel arch, so let's close it up right there. That's not the flange, that's not where it's going to be bent, but it's more inward. So let's cut this out. There's a feature here. I think we're going to change the location of that feature, yet it has to correspond to the feature here. So we might adjust that this way or that way after. Let's cut this out. I have some clients that like to take this home and put that up in their man cave. But like with this one here, every time I move it, the stuff keeps falling off. Wow. Check out how that paint survived all those years on the inside. That must be the original paint on the car. It was green. Interesting. That's primer. That's primer. Two different colors of primer. I've never seen a green primer unless they've dyed it because the car was green. That's your gray, standard gray primer. And this brown stuff here, that's rust. You guys want this? Didn't think so. Okay. There's one more thing I'm going to do that I should have done, I guess. And that is, I need to indicate the cut. Help align things. Save that for later. Okay. Normally I like using press paper, but the press paper I have isn't big enough for this. So corrugated cardboard is what it's going to be for now. So we're going to be around there. You know, it's going to look okay. Say something like this. You can see that the finger doesn't always give you an accurate line where you want to cut it. Sometimes you can get away with just using your finger to extend the line. Masking tape is your best friend when you're fabricating. And now we can draw a line. Like that. I might need that again later. It's fine. Okay, so you can see I started out not too bad. I started climbing with the finger method. So it has its time and place. Tape works really well here. I'm going to get the shear out. Before I start cutting, a comment was made a while ago about our extension cords getting in the way of the shear or grinders when I'm dragging it across a panel, and for us to have something like an overhead wire that comes down to the table. Well, I'll show you. See that anchor point up there? We have a cable that runs on this side of the shop to an anchor point over there with a looped up extension cord that we can drag back and forth on loops. Wasn't too hard to do. I think it was a turnbuckle over there to tighten up that cable so it didn't droop. That S hook kind of picked it up because I think we had the lift turned around and we needed some more headroom. So that took care of that temporary thing. It's been like that for about a year now. So on that I-beam, we have a trolley with, again, a cable and some eyelets that hold that cable up. It loops back and forth. There's a plug at the other end, same as over here. And it does keep our cables up when we have the table here, but sometimes if the table's somewhere else, we need to run an extension cord. Get that up inside, I would have to cut the front here. I want to slip it up inside, pinch it, so I can scribe this line. We're going to work down from that line, get our wheel arch. This car is sitting, it's mounted to the fixture at ride height. Okay, I got two sticks here, both out of pine. Actually, that one's hardwood. Scratch that. That one's hardwood. This one's pine, and it's 3/8 by 3/4, heavy 3/4. And what I use these for, this one's not so much, but I need to extend this rocker feature. There's a feature on the door, but I want to extend the rocker feature back. This one's too flexible. Onto the quarter panel to indicate where that's going to be. About there. Yeah. Now, this is going to be tricky. Not saying that's the bend, it's a feature. There's a feature in the door, the Coke bottle shape, so we have to extend that in as well. I think I just have too much material down here, and I don't want to be fighting or cutting away. Yeah. Okay, that's probably going to come out there somewhere. All right, yeah. Scissors. So what you saw me doing there was a thing called an impact line. Basically, you take the palm of your hand, bump the cardboard up against the sharp edge, and it leaves a line. You can do that when making gaskets too. Use a ball peen hammer, lightly tap out the flange, and you're doing the same thing but using your hand. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good, good, good. We don't want this car to look like it's got a load in his diaper either. So it's, you know, things will be trimmed up and shaped up. This is just the beginnings. So before you hit that unsubscribe button, just be patient. That sat there. So we can either mess around and try filling this little hole, or we'll cut back and get rid of that rusty thing Yeah, we'll do that. Include it in the whole panel. So we'll run it all the way back here. All right, let's have a look at this for a second. This line is the bottom edge of this sheet metal. If we cut it off just above that blue line, we have no way of clamping that panel, that cardboard, to this panel. So what I can do is cut just a little bit above it, say that much over there, 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 or so, and then we'll have something to clamp to. Over here, I think I'm going to just cut this off. This is the door jamb. It will add that much more material to the actual sheet metal. Same thing, well there we can just trace it, that's fine, we can cut that away. All right, wheel arch, we'll leave that. Did I miss anything, guys? I'll leave it about 1/2 inch. I want to see the feature. I know Mr. Joe Wolf has been waiting for a video on a fender flare. Every time I try and get to it, something always comes up. I've got the piece sitting in the corner over there. It's been there for about 3 months. That's the problem with corrugated cardboard. It's corrugated. We need to maintain the same profile of rocker back here as we have in the front here. We can't have this radius out more than that. Otherwise it's going to look really heavy back in here. Now, there's a feature that shoots up. Okay, see as I'm squeezing this down, it is swelling out. Again, I have that big space between the wheel and there. See? What a difference that makes from that, shooting straight back, to bringing it up here. But we won't know what that's going to look like until later on. I just have to make sure I have enough material to roll it under. I need to get this main shape established. Okay, so that's what we started with. Right there. I took out too much in the front corner, as I suspected, and back there you can see how much we've opened up. So this area from here to here needs to move in. Go that way. Back here, that's plenty of material to work with. We're an inch past there, and we got tons at the back. I want to use that Coke bottle shape, and back here we're pretty close, like that. And even if we put that feature in, we can always move it. Just roll it out and move it. It sounds tricky, because it is tricky, but it can be done. And the back of the car looks awful. Probably make a good thumbnail, wouldn't it? Hey, look what we did. I'll superimpose this on the video, or if you guys can see it in the drawing. We have the rocker here, but behind the wheel, that really thins out a lot. It really comes up a lot back here. So the rocker is down here, but back here, we got something like this. And I think we're gonna do that. Let's draw a proposed line there. Because of the rust that we have in that corner, there's a good chance that I can take and chop all that stuff out. I have to make it again anyway, reform it, get a patch panel in there. We can reform it to lighten the back of that up a lot. Just imagine this swooping down, and then it picks up in here. For now. This line here, it swoops down and then up. Check that drawing out right there at the top. Like so. And this thing here, if it sits there, we have this feature right about there. So it's close. We'd be sitting up a little bit higher. Okay. I think I have everything I need for this template. I need to add here, cannot forget that. And we're gonna add plus 2 inches all around. 2 inches? 2 inches will put it there. I want the top of the tire exposed just a little bit. Yeah, these tires are coming off. New wheels are going on. Technically, I should have them on the car. Not at this stage though. The other thing I've noticed, if you look at the wheel arch on a Charger, picture up here, she actually climbs up a little bit and down. The front is a little lower than the back and the arch. This is flat, this is boring. So let's add 2 inches all around. We'll create a fresh arch using a wire, a rod, curve it around so we can match them right and left and adjust the rod to what looks good on the sheet metal, transpose the line of sheet metal, bend it. That'll be the very last thing we do. Everything else, all the shaping, we gotta hit that right now. Okay, cut there. Cut there. Cut here. Oops, come on. Cut that off to the back. Since I have a lot of material there, I'm just going to take most of that corner off, but not all of it. I just added a bunch. And like I said, we're going to add, maybe we can fake it on here. I want to add this much. Have the back higher than the front. That's my proposed arch. And then we're going to add two inches, come on, 2 inches all the way around. Some could measure this out and make sure it's exactly 2 inches. Since this quarter panel is way wider than our wheels on the car right now, it's not going to interfere. This marker doesn't like oil. Come on, you can do it. Okay, that line, not that line. And this is going to be our first quarter panel. Check that out. Now, so we don't mix it up, that's the front. This is the exciting part, guys. Okay, let's get this up on the car and have a look, see. This is tricky. And that, my friends, is what we're going to be starting with. So if you think you can just take a piece of sheet metal, I don't care if it was even down to here, and put it on the side of a car, you're going to get something that looks like something you found on the bottom of your shoe. All right? You see this angled wheel arch? Throw that picture up there. Let's compare the two. Shape-wise, we're not going to be finishing this panel in this episode. It's going to be maybe one more after this. We'll see. Wheeling is going to take quite a bit. If you guys want to see it, the whole thing, you know, wheeling it up and all that stuff, let me know in the comments. The other thing, do we angle it and keep it? I know what I want in my mind, but what do you guys think? Do you guys think we should go flat or be more in line with the traditional Charger, even though this is whatever you want to call it, kind of a raked wheel arch like the original one had. There we go, guys. Next step is to wipe this thing off, make some space, and get this in the wheel and start wheeling it.